How many of you would agree that the world around us needs changing? Thanks. We're constantly told at school, in the media, and almost every other social platform to see the bright side of dismal news articles, to help and fight for what we feel passionate about, but to not let the increasingly worrying news affect us too much. Above me are examples of the dismal news articles I'm referring to, and all it took was for me to search up news into Safari last week. Well, today I wanted to give you some examples of people who have managed to create a change in this world despite seemingly hopeless circumstances. And in a way, I did this on a much smaller scale. These people have managed to inspire others and create a change in this world, something I hope this talk does for you as well. My first example, Greta Thunberg, who has become known across the world for her environmental activism. But what I want to focus on today is how she got there. On August 20th, 2018, she skipped school to protest outside Parliament in Sweden at just 15 years old. This continued until she was known across the globe for her environmental activism and was joined by fellow students, teachers, and parents, and was invited to speak at the United Nations, where she took a firm approach in condemning those she felt responsible for the continuing climate crisis. The image of one girl focusing on what she believed in, which raised awareness for one of the biggest issues the world is currently facing, shows that, and ignore the cliche, but anything is possible, even if you're the only one fighting for it at the beginning. Next, we have Captain Sir Thomas more popularly known as Captain Tom, who was a British Army officer who made international headlines in 2020 when he raised £32.8 million in the run-up to his 100th birthday for charity. The patriotic pride that ensued after his fundraising gave the nation hope in times of uncertainty and in a new situation. COVID has created a shift in the mindset of almost every person on this planet, whether that's looking at a crowd of tens of thousands of people and wondering, I wonder how many people are going to catch COVID from this, or carrying a pocket-sized hand sanitizer with you at all times. The world has very obviously changed as a result of the pandemic, and people like Captain Tom were exactly what was needed. Finally, we have Helen Lamarr, an Austrian-American actress whom you may have already heard of, but what you may not know is that she was also an inventor who pioneered the technology that would one day form the basis of today's Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and GPS signals. She was born into a well-to-do Jewish family in 1914. From the age of 5, she was dismantling music boxes to try and understand their inner workings. However, she became an actress and became the inspiration for Snow White and Catwoman, often referred to as the most beautiful woman in the world. Lamarr later became an inventor, and during World War II, she found a way for radio guidance transmitters to jump from signal to signal before it had moved to another frequency. This approach became known as frequency hopping. Unfortunately, her patent on this expired before widespread implementation of her idea. She did, however, live long enough to see her brainstorm advance into a wide campaign late into the 20th century. Despite having slipped through the gaps of history, Helen Lamarr changed society as we know it. Her creativity, ambition, and determination allowed her to create a groundbreaking device in one of the hardest 4 years the world has had to face. Despite already having a career in a more lucrative and glamorous occupation, acting, she still decided to continue her ideas. And, in addition to being Jewish, being female in a male-dominated scientific world would have made it near to impossible for her to be respected. Yet, this did not deter her pursuit of science, and I hope she's become as much of an inspiration to you as she is for me. I would now like to share with you a small idea I had to help those I felt needed it. It all stemmed from a psychology lesson when my class watched a short documentary on Romanian orphans and the appalling conditions they faced. With help from people who were as passionate as I was, we were able to raise £1,285, which was enough to keep 9 children from being separated from their families. Now, the part of this whole process that stuck with me the most was not the fundraising, but it was on the day I was deciding a topic for this TED Talk, where I received a thank you letter from the charity, which really put into perspective the difference we had made. I was filled with shock and happiness that an idea so small had created an actual difference in other people's lives, who I have not and probably will never meet. The point of that anecdote was not to say that I could be the next Greta Thunberg, but was to show you that your idea does not have to be the basis of a new technological revolution, make a whole nation think you're the coolest 100-year-old out there, or lead you to yell at the entire United Nations, but that there is always an opportunity to create change, no matter how big or small the impact, which, in this ever-changing world that feels like it could simply self-destruct at any moment, change is exactly what the future needs. Thank you.